I'm Shirlaine from TSC Tuition, and today I'll be talking about some tips and tricks to tackling the argument analysis section of the VCE English and EAL exam. The argument analysis section of the VCE English and EAL exam is possibly the most daunting of the three sections because you don't know what articles they're going to throw at you. You don't know how many articles there will be. You don't know if there will be a comment. You don't know if there'll be a cartoon. You just don't know anything about it. So for a lot of students, this is the most surprising part of the exam that they find that they cannot adequately prepare for. So today I'm going to talk about some things that I think all students can do to eliminate some of that surprise elements from the task. The first advice I'd give is to annotate the article as soon as your reading time is finished. So when they say you may now begin writing, the first thing you need to do is to, of course, write down your student number in the writing booklet that you're given, and then immediately after that you need to start annotating the article that you've just read. I suggest doing this even if you're not going to be writing the argument analysis essay first, because you've just finished reading the article, so it's fresh in your mind. And what we need to do is, as soon as we've read it, we need to start annotating. In your reading time, you should have identified the contention and main arguments already. So when you do get a chance, finally, to pick up that pen and start writing, you need to highlight what those are. Highlight the contention, highlight the main arguments, and then look through it in a bit more depth and detail if you haven't done so already in the reading time, and find those persuasive devices and techniques. When you're annotating, you should also be annotating any visuals that you see. So that means any cartoons, any graphs, any slides that they may have provided, anything visual that you're going to talk about in the argument analysis essay. The second piece of advice I'm going to give to students is that you need to have a go-to introduction to write. So that is really just a formula for getting all the things that you need to talk about in the introduction, get them out of the way, and then off you go for the body paragraphs. The introduction is really just there as a formality. I don't really care how a student writes the introduction as long as it contains all the bits that are needed. So some students use the CCTAP acronym for context, contention, tone, audience, and purpose. Other students use other kinds of acronyms. It really doesn't matter which one you use. They all sort of cover about the same things. So as long as you've ticked off all the bits that you need to mention, you're fine. And I find that once students get into writing and they knock out an introduction, they feel much more confident about tackling the body paragraphs. So I would say if you're really feeling not great about the argument analysis, practice the introduction first, get a formula under your belt. It doesn't really matter what it is, like I said, as long as you cover all the basics, you're fine. And then once you write that introduction and you finish and you're ready to write the body paragraphs, most students feel pretty good about themselves once they get to that point. My third and final piece of advice for tackling the argument analysis essay is to plan. Remember that in the exam you only have about 50-55 minutes to write this essay, so you have to be realistic about how many body paragraphs you can write. Most students find that 3 is very achievable. Some students can aim for 4. I would say not a lot of students can do more than that and well. So knowing what kind of student you are, knowing what kind of body paragraphs you have been writing, keep that number in mind. If you're writing 3 only, break down the article and the comments and visuals and anything else that you need to analyze in the text and allocate them to the body paragraphs. So if you're taking a block approach, for instance, and it's an article with a comment, how are you going to break that down? Are you going to talk about main arguments 1 and 2 in body paragraph 1, and then main arguments 3 in body paragraph 2, and then in body paragraph 3 you're going to talk about the comments? Or are you going to go for a more integrated kind of approach where you're picking out arguments in the article and then assigning them to counter arguments in the comments, and then that's how you're dividing them up in your body paragraphs? Once again, it doesn't really matter which approach you take as long as it makes sense to you and as long as it gives your reader a really clear sense of where you're going with your analysis. And that's where the planning comes in. Once you've annotated the article and you've had a thought about what the main arguments are, how many devices you've managed to find, because let's be honest here, you're not going to find every device or every technique there is in the article. It's just not possible. And sometimes you just have a brain fart, you look at an article and you're like, I can't find anything. And that's totally normal as well. Heaps of people experience that. But what will help you is if you can't find, for example, any technique in, say, main argument 1, that's okay. Maybe you found a few more in argument 2 or argument 3 or in the introduction. If you did have a brain fart and you just can't find any technique or device in main argument 1, perhaps you can just smoosh main arguments 1 and 2 together, and then so in that body paragraph you're still discussing techniques or devices, but just not in the main argument 1. So doing things like that in your planning will help you feel on top of the task, and it'll help take away that feeling of, oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing, I can't find any appeals, I don't know what tone this is. It'll take away some of that panic, and the planning will really help you feel a bit more confident in your writing, which will translate to your reader as well, and hopefully it translates to a better reading experience for your examiner, which therefore translates to a higher mark. So I hope that was helpful. As always, like and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks to achieving your best for your VCE English subjects. And if you'd like to get some one-to-one tutoring, provided that you're in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, please contact us and I can send someone to you. Thanks for watching.